And greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Want to remind everybody, hit that like, share, and subscribe button for me. There's a PayPal link down there for anybody who wants to share some love. Always appreciated. Somos Wody, I appreciate it very much. I did receive it. Thank you kindly. And the link is down there. Just go ahead and click on it, and you should be able to come up. And of course, in the meantime, that's an open welcome for everybody else. Just click the link for the StreamYard panel. Everybody's welcome. And as we're talking about indemnification, I'm going down that indemnification path. We talked about indemnification method, and we talked about private bill earlier, the private relief law, and going through the Senate and House to do that. That's a communication with Congress. Notice to principal is notice to agent is notice to principal, goes up and down the line, president, governor, county commission, and the mayor, and all of their offices and agents and everything. So,
I wanted to add another segment. I think.
And we've got Mitchell with us. How you doing tonight, Mitchell?
Doing good. Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem. So, Somos Wody, one more time. The link is down there. It should be down. Let me drop it one more time just in case I don't know what I'm talking about. And you should be able to click on that link, guys, and come right on up to panel. And so we're talking tonight about the bail and how that birth certificate bond is a bailment. It's meant to be used as bail. And so one of the things we're going to talk about is involuntary bailment. Involuntary bailment, according to the law, and this is from U.S. Legal. And it says, involuntary bailment is a type of bailment that arises when a person accidentally, but without any negligence, leaves personal property in another's possession. This is the abandonment of the estate. And remember, all real and personal effects encompass the entire estate. So if you leave any personal property in the possession of another, it is an involuntary bailment. It happens when a person comes into possession of property accidentally or mistakenly. For example, where a lost purse or car keys are found and need to be protected until property re-delivered. This is being held in abeyance by the state until a beneficiary comes forth and makes the proper and valid claim on that personal property. An involuntary bailee who refuses to return the property to the owner can be liable for conversion. So, an involuntary bailee, known as the Secretary of State, sends a birth certificate because they don't want to be liable for conversion. Does that make sense to everybody? And there we have Somos Wody. How you doing tonight, brother?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Keith.
Anytime. I appreciate your
good.
Support.
So much would I. So much would I.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I always appreciate a good a pronunciation, so I make sure I don't get it wrong anymore. Somos Wody. Thank you. And greetings, Russ. How you doing tonight? Russ?
Greetings. Sorry, I had to. I had to mute my YouTube on the other side. Sorry. Greetings, everyone. Doing well.
So does that make sense in relation to the birth certificate, guys? Does that sound familiar? Like it was abandoned, and we just need to claim it?
Yes. And I think you might have touched on this on the last stream, and I don't want to digress if you're going to get into it later, but What do you think about the authenticated birth certificate process? Are you familiar with that?
Well, yeah, but when we read the code, it says, and we went over this the other day. I can't remember exactly which code it was, but we can go back and watch those videos, and you'll find in there, it was in a very recent one, where the code says that the government document with a state seal on it is evidence of full faith and credit, and is authenticated. It's already authenticated by that seal. Greetings, Iman. How you doing tonight, sister?
All is well.
Good to hear. Good to hear. So, what do you think so far, Samas? And can I ask you to turn the you've got a second window open or something somewhere where we're getting a echo.
Yeah, turn off the YouTube if you could.
It's self-authenticating. It's self-authenticating.
Yes, because it's got that seal on it. And
Okay,
it's a
thank you.
government document. Yep. Absolutely.
What do you think so far, Samas?
Samas Bodai, I think you need to mute YouTube.
Or someone's listening to you.
I have this.
Turn off the YouTube if you could.
Okay, turn off the YouTube. All right, hold on.
Yep.
Self-authenticating.
There we go. Much better. All right. And then in the meantime,
I can't
I'm
hear
going to ask,
anything now.
Goodness gracious, private chat.
Do you have YouTube running in your background? When you come up on panel, did you mute your YouTube before you did that?
I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Self-authenticating.
When I turn,
Because it's got that seal on it. Okay, yep. Absolutely.
Can you go out and come back in?
Need to mute YouTube.
I tried to mute.
Or someone's listening to you.
I have this. Okay, turn off YouTube. All right, hold on.
You see your YouTube up in your
I
tab?
tried to shut off YouTube. I can't get any audio on the.
And then in the meantime, I can't get anything now.
You might need to mute you or close YouTube and refresh the StreamYard tab.
Oh.
Oh, that's it. It's the audio settings. He's probably got to change the audio settings in his StreamYard. You're right.
Yeah, either one.
Yeah, if you refresh it, it should do it automatically.
Okay, so in the meantime, we're going to get back to the presentation, and we'll keep an eye on it, see if he's going to be around. Let me get my setup here. And share screen, window, and here we go. And I had problems with Black's Law online, and it wasn't moving fast enough and glitching and catching up. So this is just copy and pasted. Now the first one there you see is the U.S. legal definition of involuntary bailment, law and legal definition. That's the one we just read. And then from Black's Fourth, this is one I was telling you about on your stream earlier, Mitch. Back bond, a bond of indemnification given to a surety. In Scotch law, a deed attaching a qualification or condition to the terms of a conveyance or other instrument. The deed is used when particular circumstances render it necessary to express in a separate form the limitations or qualifications of a right. The instrument is equivalent to a declaration of trust in English conveyancing. So the back bond is the birth certificate bond, and it's got a deed attached with qualifications or conditions to the terms of a conveyance or other instrument. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So you understand that that birth certificate as a bail bond is the same thing as a back bond. And this is relative to what they call modern drawback. You get to go into the record, correct all the errors, and everything that was in excess is a deficiency. It's a deficiency because it actually belongs to you. So you get to draw it back. That's all them taxes, child support payments, everything. You weren't supposed to be paying those. Remember we talked about prepaid. This is the prepaid method. Indemnification is a prepayment. It's already prepaid. So it says technically, bail is the money or property required in the form of a security deposit and is given to ensure. That's that term under grant. You're now the grantee, and you're going to take that bail bond and grant it back to the United States or up the chain to the Postal Service, I guess, is actuality where it's supposed to go. It's a document of title that will return and appear for your court date if you are released. So anytime they ask you for the court to appear in court, what it's going to do is it's going to show that it's already indemnified. If you know what you're doing, it's going to show you're going to provide indemnification across the board. Like I said, up and down the chain. The mayor, the commission, the state governor, and the United States president, and all of their officers and agents across the board. So no person shall be held liable in any court. This is your equity. And this is what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Equity.
Well, also, I think 4035 2B would come into play because anything that was tendered to the court, any bond, anything is full acquittance and discharge under Title 50.
Yeah, and that's that. What he's talking about is that full acquittance and discharge where no person shall be held liable in any court. That's what I was mentioning. That's under the
for anything done in
Act.
Yeah, for anything done in good faith. Yep.
Equity is a beautiful thing.
It is. And so as we continue on, there are other types of bailment that are listed in Black's Fourth, but we're looking at the constructive bailment. And it says, one arising where the person having possession of a chattel holds it, this is the bond, the birth certificate bond, as holder in due course, under such circumstances that the law imposes, that's the due course, upon him the obligation to deliver it to another, the United States, in the interest of the United States and on the account of the United States, for the obligation of the United States, to zero the accounts out. Anything remainder is to be drawn back. The involuntary bailment. Then it says gratuitous bailment. Another name for a depositum or naked bailment, which is made only for the benefit of the bailor. That's you. The benefactor, the grantor, the trustor, the bailor, the settlor, the executor, and is not a source of profit to the bailee, who is the state that is holding it. Involuntary bailment, one arising by the accidental leaving of personal property in the possession of any person without negligence on the part of its owner. A bailment is created by the element of lawful possession and the duty to act for the thing as the property of another, whether such possession is based on contract, in the ordinary sense or not. Act for the thing as the property of another. It's the property of the United States. It belongs in the United States. But because there's no federal birth registry in the United States, those are held in the states. Bad faith. This is what you were just talking about. Good faith. The opposite of good faith. Generally implying or involving actual or constructive fraud. So it would be a constructive bailment, but somebody along the line should have known better and never did its due diligence to return it or educate them to claim it. A bailment is created by the element of lawful possession and the duty to act for the thing as property of another. Generally implying or involving, generally implying or involving actual or constructive fraud or designed to mislead or deceive another, or neglect or refusal to fulfill some duty or some contractual obligation. Until there is a attachment of indemnification, there's no obligation for them to recognize you. They consider you a party to the contract, and they have no duty to consider you in any other way until you give them notice. Not prompted by an honest mistake as to one's rights or duties, but by some interested or sinister move or motive. So these people, unless you can definitively show that they are doing it with some interested or sinister motive, there's not much you can do otherwise except follow equity. Let's see, what else? Badge of fraud. A term used relatively to the law of fraudulent conveyances. And remember, that's fraudulent. Still doesn't mean that there's intent there to be fraud. It may seem in the form to be fraud, but that would only mean fraudulent. It could be compared to fraud if for this, this, and this, whatever those details are. That's what those elements you have to prove in order to prove that it is fraud. Made to hinder and defraud creditors. It is defined as a fact tending to throw suspicion upon a transaction. Again, not the title or the office, but the transaction, the records, and calling for an explanation. It is a suspicious circumstance that overhangs a transaction, not the people or their offices or titles, or appears on the face of the papers. A circumstance which does not alone prove fraud, but which warrants inference of fraud, especially where there is a concurrence of many such badges. So, 94 cases. I could present a very good case for a repetition, a pattern of practice that says they made certain unlawful conversions unknown to me. 94 cases. They converted the last name to a firm name, and not once in my life have I ever been educated to use the last name in all upper caps and just the first four letters to describe a corporate entity known as a firm. Goes on.
Well, you know, Keith, it brings up an interesting question here on the badge of fraud. When we've done searches on Fidelity investments in regards to CUSIP numbers tied directly to a state file number, mine personally had 3,144 different links.
You can't go that.
So whether or not
that's your birth certificate, your information cannot be bonded with a CUSIP number until it's securitized by the SEC. And that's
I know that.
You can't do that through a pooling.
Well, yeah, I was going to finish it, but anyway, I'll let you go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, if you're using that GMEI and stuff to determine a CUSIP number on your supposed birth certificate, it's never been securitized. It's been sold, but never been securitized. And I can't even say sold. I can say it's been used, and that's that state's vital statistic jurisdiction. Hypothecated.
And if it was, that's prima facie evidence.
Yep.
Yep.
And I'll pull that one up for everybody.
It's been hypothecated. Yeah. Thank you.
17 CFR 240.8. Let me get rid of my other screen share. You're spot on, brother. It is hypothecation of customers' securities. Okay. Notice and certification requirements. No person subject to this section shall hypothecate any security carried for the account of a customer unless at or prior to the time of each such hypothecation he gives written notice to the pledgee that the security pledged is carried for the account of a customer. So they're doing it for a customer. It's not the customer doing it. That's a hypothecation of a customer's security, and that such hypothecation does not contravene any provision of this section. So they're not securitizing it in your individual name. What they're doing is hypothecating it and then pledging it for the customer into a pool, and then that pool is securitized in a different name. That's all they're doing.
Yep, exactly.
And that's what those municipal securities and all that is, correct?
Yeah.
In that pooling?
That's the original hypothecation. That's where I'm saying they're taking that security from you and they're hypothecating it through a conversion into a firm name and an obligor number.
And then we didn't know distributors buying and then turning around and selling them.
Yep. And we never know about it.
And then when you do a change of address, that change of address goes into their lot block and plot plan. So when they want to go ahead and fund a new hospital, they do the block grant credit. They've already got the party who confessed that they relocated into that specific zone, who can now pledge or be surety for their expansion of infrastructure in a block grant credit for a community project. Yep.
Social Security, health and welfare block grants, community block grants, schooling zones. Absolutely. So let's go on to the next one. Recognized badges of fraud include fictitious consideration, false statements as to consideration, transactions different from usual course of doing business. Again, like I said, if I'd have known that it was the usual course of business to change the last name to a firm name and use the social security number as an obligor number, I might be better qualified and be able to enter into them courts a little bit more appropriately. However, that was never disclosed to me, or anyone else for that matter that I know of. Transfer of all of a debtor's property, insolvency, confidential relationships of parties. I think it was pretty confidential that they changed it from the last name to the firm name and used the social security number as an obligor number. And transfers in anticipation of suit or execution. Oops. Now we have a badge of fraud, and it's a repetitive badge of fraud 94 times. They converted that last name to a firm name and used the social security number as an obligor number. I think there's pretty compelling evidence that somebody either committed fraud or none of them know what the fuck they're doing.
I have a hard time. I have a hard time believing some of the top heads in the local administration don't know exactly what they're doing. I have a hard time believing that.
Well, yeah, I'm a redneck born on the mighty Mississippi with mud squished between my toes. Graduated high school, missed the last full semester of school just in time. Had 5 days of school left to do the semester tests and everything, and still passed with a 3.79 point grade point average for my entire high school interim. I don't think that's too fucking bad, but at the same time, I didn't go on to college. I had to learn all of this on my own. None of this is taught in school. Bailment. A delivery of goods or personal property by one person to another. Mom created that bailment. In trust for the execution of a special object upon or in relation to such goods, beneficial either to the bailer or bailee or both, and upon a contract, express or implied, to perform the trust and carry out such object, and thereupon either to redeliver the goods to the bailer or otherwise dispose of the same in conformity with the purpose of the trust. Why do you think they call it a disposition hearing?
Exactly. When we look at the three products of the birth, which you, Doctor or Pastor of the Way, spoke about, then we look at the issue of a fetus, and then we look at the neonatal, then we look at the child, infant, decedent, and the baby. It's almost like, will the real Mr. Wiggly please stand up? Which one of it is it? Is it an ice cream topping or is it a floor wax? You know, Saturday Night Live stuff. But yeah, you notice they say execution of a special object. It's not a general object. It's a special object.
And when you relate
mom
that
grants to the beneficiary.
When you look at that term,
the mother's
special,
the grantor.
That's species, which means private. Literally, it's private.
Yep, special master, master, special deposit, special investigator. Yep, special.
Absolutely. So it says, the next one, a delivery of goods for some purpose upon a contract, express or implied, that after the purpose has been fulfilled, they shall be redelivered to the bailer. This is part of the process that goes wrong. Once that young man or young woman becomes age of majority and are allowed to take over their estate, it's not redelivered to the bailer. It's the estate that the state is holding. It's evidence of the estate. It's a real or personal effect of the estate. It belongs. It's supposed to be redelivered. But nobody does that unless the bailer, settlor, benefactor comes forth and makes that claim. Or otherwise dealt with according to his direction. Again, 50 U.S.C. 4305. It's a directive. You're supposed to give special directions. You're supposed to reroute it. It's a direction. Is it going to go this way or that way? Or kept until reclaimed. It's held in abeyance until the benefactor comes forth and makes a true and valid claim, assuring them, yeah, this is mine. Here you go. Here's the indemnification statement. I fear not, for I have been redeemed. He has called me by thy name. That's not mine. That's yours.
Do you have more?
A delivery of something of a personal nature. The nativity. That's the event. The nativity. That was what was handed over. And it was a personal nature because it was a personal nationality. By one party to another to be held according to the purpose or object of the delivery and to be returned or delivered over when that purpose is accomplished. The purpose is never going to be accomplished if you're not educated properly and don't know how to make the claim. The last thing they'll ever teach you. Go ahead, brother.
That's why on that neonatal care, when you look at that agreement on that, the woman is the mom is assigning to the state for life the child, and the child. The definition of a child is a sellable item. You know, it's like, oh, we can hypothecate this, sell this over and over again. You look at the proliferation from the mid 1970s, 76, when they first proposed this concept of family court and all these other ancillary tentacles that came from it, child protective service, et cetera, et cetera. They estimated back there that would generate between $4 and $6 billion a year in revenue for the court systems. Yeah. And by like 1986, it had mushroomed into over $40 billion in revenue generated for the counties and the cities and the states when dealing with family law and child protective services. And what were they doing? They were trafficking children.
Absolutely. That's the foundling hospitals, which are military, the abandonment of that personal property that is an inauthentic claim of a nationality. No one ever teaches us any of this. So let's finish up with this here. It says, the next one is, the term bailment is derived from the French word bailer, meaning to deliver. It imports a delivery of personal property by one person to another in trust for a specific purpose, with a contract expressed or implied that the trust shall be faithfully executed and the property returned or duly accounted for when a specific purpose is accomplished or kept until bailer claims it. So the specific purpose of the establishment of the enumeration at birth, like I've said before, is a burial trust. That's its purpose, so that the state will take care of you until it's time to bury you. And at that time, the instrument will be forwarded so the body can be taken to the cemetery plot. That's all they're worried about. In the meantime, they give you a card to place liabilities on the public record so that when you do die and don't correct the estate, they can come in and take every penny of it that they need for all the bills they put against you during your lifetime. And of course, most people pay that in their lifetime. So then they take out all of the stuff for the funeral expense. You know, the coroner and
for services.
Services rendered.
For services rendered. Yep.
It's all a service contract in trust, and that's their service, to bury you. According to Story, the contract does not necessarily imply an undertaking to redeliver the goods.
It just requires an undertaker.
Right. It does require an undertaker to move the body, a burial permit, so they can move the body to an undertaker. And it's the undertaker that's got to do it. He's the one with the burial permit. On the other hand, Blackstone, although his definition does not include the return, speaks of it in all his examples of bailments as a duty of the bailee. And Kent says that the application of the term to cases in which no return or redelivery to the owner or his agent is contemplated is extending the definition of the term beyond its ordinary acceptation in English law. Again, it's a duty of the bailee. A consignment to a factor would be a bailment for sale. A consignment to a benefactor would be a bailment for sale, according to Story, while according to Kent, it would not. So let's see if we can get bailment up on Black's Law. See if we can see some of the others. Greetings, Steve. How you doing tonight, brother?
Okay, man. How you doing?
Good, good. We're just going over all this bailment stuff and how important it is to understand that the birth certificate is such a bail bond and it belongs to the United States, but there's no birth registration in the United States. So just securitize it in an obligation for full acquittance and discharge through indemnification. That's giving it a directive so that no person shall be held liable in any court, and it coincides directly with that 50 U.S.C. 4305. And then tomorrow we're going to be talking about bill inequity. So let's see here. Bear with me while I try to get this pulled up.
Your focus has been unreal lately, man. You've been very effectively communicating some really critical points. Thank you.
I hope so. I hope so.
Well, it's funny. I had a discussion with some folks tonight, just really talking about, the essentialness of this type of education. We learn business, we don't learn commerce. And we should spend all of our time learning commerce over business, because I literally said I've yet to use the quadratic equation, pi, or the Pythagorean theorem since I left high school. I have not used it once. So this is the real education we truly need, because it's applicable as soon as you learn it.
Okay, let's see here. Now this is directly from Black's Law 4th, and we're going to take a look at the term bail as a verb. To procure the release of a person from legal custody. So the person is not me, right? The person is the name, and I procured the release of a person from legal custody of the state, and I have 3 of them in my possession. By undertaking that he shall appear at the time and place designated and submit himself to the jurisdiction and judgment of the court. So if I have that bail and it's set up with indemnification and a private placement, like I'm expressing, then they should all have notice up and down the line if there's 4 of them. The mayor, the county, the state governor, and the United States president. And again, that's the bill of relief that we're going to talk about tomorrow night, bill inequity. That's who you're dealing with, is the Senate and House. It's a procedure. Remember Schoolhouse Rock? I'm just a bill. Yep, that's what we're doing. To deliver the defendant to persons who, in the manner prescribed by law, become security for his appearance in court. The bill, by law, by manner of the law prescribed, the Senate and House procedure of presenting a bill to Congress is that very specific security for his appearance in court. It's that armistice saying, hey, listen, you've got it all wrong. You're dependent upon me. Not only will I appear in court, but I'll let that judge go ahead and make that judgment, and I'm going to condemn it. Any judge wants to make that judgment, I'm sorry, I've already rebutted it appropriately. That is not me. That person belongs to the United States, and they have it in their possession. Now, a principal under them, the governor, has one in his possession for his trade zone. The principal or agent under him, the county commission, they have one in their possession for their trade zone, foreign trade zone. And same with the municipal mayor. Foreign trade zones, all of them. I'm not a resident. Oops. To set at liberty a person arrested or imprisoned on security being taken for his appearance on a day and place certain, which security is called bail. Because the party arrested or imprisoned is delivered into the hands of those who bind themselves for his forthcoming. That is, become bail for his due appearance when required. They're the ones that come due for his appearance. They're the true surety. You give that bond to the surety. They're already the surety, in order that he may be safely protected from prison. And here my...
Or else bring forth the body.
Right.
Bring forth the body in their habeas corpus.
And now it doesn't want to behave again. I think it's because I blow the screen up. Come on. Okay. Wow, it got so touchy. Now we're going to read... Damn it. Now we're going to read bail as a noun. The surety or sureties who procure the release of a person under arrest. You don't procure the release of a person under arrest if the surety already has the security. It prevents the arrest. By becoming responsible for his appearance at the time and place designated. And they're going to be glad to take on the responsibility because it's under full faith and credit of the United States, and it's just a matter of transferring the credits. And it's only those credits that are due.
If the party person has come under arrest as a result of a warrant, it's an open put call option that can be satisfied on the spot when they deliver the bill of lading, i.e. the warrant. You just accept it for value as an open put call option for clearing and transfer through transfer agent known as the clerk of the court. You flip it over and endorse it, and they can walk away with the warrant, and they can all get paid because it's all based upon a true bill, which is nothing more than commerce. Title 27, yep. 27.11.
Absolutely. I'm astounded you're up on this. I got to get to know you better, brother, because you're spot on. It's what one of the bases of real men have a calling. One of my favorites. That's a person. You can put a call on him all you want.
I've been doing this since 1980.
Really?
I've been engaged in this activity since 1980, yes. I've learned from many, many great people. And it's nice to see Mr. Martin here on the call here because I have some information that might be beneficial for him in regards to probate. When you go to California Probate Code, Section 15404 through 151 to 15412, it brings forth some really wonderful information. It's in the California Probate Code, 15404 to 15412. So,
well, I appreciate it. I got to tell you, those commercial codes. Trust me when I tell you, I've used them, and they threw them right back in my face. Because most of especially when you're dealing with officers and in particular clerk of court, they're not as versed as the ones 20 years ago. You know, folks that were in years ago knew this stuff. The people that are in it now, they don't know this shit at all. They're just told what to do, and that's what they do. And they have no idea how liable.
Yeah, but when you come in, if you have the first standing as a special administrator, and from that special administrator position, you come out to be the general administrator. We just talked about special object, special delivery, special deposit. Mm-hmm. All that has a very huge impact when you are probating the estate, because of the simple fact that there's a tax associated with the estate, and the best foe you might believe, may be hard to believe, will be the state, because the state gets a percentage of it. And the party I'm working with now has got some astronomically huge numbers, as a project that was done in 2008 and 2009 to bail out the government, the Treasury Department, FDIC, Sheila Blair, and all these other people. So the California is sort of like leading the way. I think a lot of the Uniform Probate Code is being garnered or endorsed or perfected with the use of New York and California. When you go ahead and read this, Keith, and then we can have a little chat.
Yeah, I'm posting this link in the back chat for you, Steve. I'm going to drop it down in regular chat for everybody else as well. And then they give you a place on here, just like they do in the U.S. code, to go ahead and click to the next code. So you can click through to however much you need here. But we're going to read the first part anyway, because the California Code, Probate Code 15404, a trust may be modified or terminated by the written consent of the settlor and all beneficiaries without court approval of the modification or termination. This is the revocable trust that I was talking about here recently. If any beneficiary does not consent to the modification or termination of the trust, the court may modify or partially terminate the trust upon petition to the court by the other beneficiaries with the consent of the settlor, if the interests of the beneficiaries who do not consent are not substantially impaired. So what happens here, this is that insurance contract. The insurance company acts as the board of directors that can settle the account, and you've given up your rights to do so. You've been indemnified. C, if the trust provides for the disposition of principal to a class of persons described only as heirs or next of kin of the settlor, or using other words that describe the class of all persons who would undertake, you get it? They're shiesty, aren't they? The rules of intestacy. The court may limit the class of beneficiaries whose consent is necessary to modify or terminate a trust to the beneficiaries who are reasonably likely to take under the circumstances. That's why it's important to learn these terms: next of kin, heirs.
Well, see, that's the thing, especially with mine, because you have all the heirs you want. I'm the settler.
Yeah.
So the problem, technically, I'm not the settler. I've changed that. But based on what their perception is I am. So because I'm the one that created it, it moves as I say it moves. And that's the problem. This is the thing, is that when you actually go
absolutely,
when you challenge it, because this is the way I got into probate, is it wasn't because I was crafty or anything like that. I got into probate because it says if you are indigenous to the land, and the way in which you're indigenous to the land in America is if your parents were labeled on their birth certificates as colored or Negro. My dad's birth certificate is what got me into probate. That's what opened it for me. I know there's other ways to get in there while you're still living, but that's the critical piece, because once you come in and you're alive, you control all of these rules. And that's what they've been so upset at me about, because all of these rules they've had to twist, modify, bend, break in order to slow me down. And I've been hitting them dead in the heart on all these rules. And they just literally got to the point they said, fuck it, we're just going to break them all. That's what they had to do, because I was breaking in too quick. So just know, it's not a journey for the meek, but I've definitely hit them in the throat. But thank you for that.
And here's a couple definitions.
There's something I want to clarify right now. I just want
go ahead.
Clarify something right now. C.O.W.A.R.D.S is my Cherokee name. I'm a member of the Cherokee Nation of Indians. I was on their fire council and their law council for, 4.5, 5 years, until they unfortunately were disbanded, but it's still there, Cherokee Nation of Indians. And my given name is Thomas Ford, and I have a treaty document with the United States published by the published in the Library of Congress with an ISBN number, and my surname is McFadden. So Thomas Ford McFadden is my, however you want to call it, in Legis name. I just had a fly come in my mouth. What the? Jesus, criminies. It just flew right into my mouth. Anyway, so yeah, we've been going through the probate code in California from 17,200 to 17,400. All the DE 140s, the DE 152s, the DE 160s, all those letters of administration, etc. And so I've been getting and this has been going on now for 2.5 years. So I've been getting my feet really wet in the concept of probate. My father and my mother, my father was charged with first-degree murder back in 1986. He helped my mother commit suicide. She had multiple sclerosis, so I went through that whole thing. But the concept of the probation is they're probating the estate. So now if all these different agencies, by law of agency and by law of contract and corpus juris secundum, they can maneuver and do whatever they want because they've labeled us the enemy and they're trading with the Enemy Act. However, you have a rights, title, and interest as the beneficiary to the assets of the estate. But most people don't even take it in and go probate an estate. They just say, "Oh, he died. That's it." Blah blah, walk away, and then they get a bill from the intern, the mortuary, and they do a GoFundMe thing to raise $6,000 for a pine box that they buried him in. And so, dang it, you freaking buck.
Yeah, that's the probated estate.
So
that's
anyway, there's. Correct. So anyway, Stephen, I'll put my email address in here for you in case you ever want to have a chat. And I think the gentleman that when I watched the video of you guys before, the 2-hour and 38-minute video that you guys did about the perfected title trust or trust title, I watched that video 3 times, and I shared with the gentleman in California some of the contents of it, and he's had yet to finish it up yet. But I was very impressed with the statements you made and your diligence and your tenacity and your determination to get this thing resolved. So at some point they're going to have to head for the hills, because if not, they've all committed a crime. When you deal with law of agency, they've got an obligation to perform. They're the trustees pursuant to corpus juris secundum. 63 Amjur 2nd, section 241, and 2931.101 of 5. All officers are trustees. Public office is a public trust. So if they keep hindering you, you do have some other remedy under the law of agency. So, and I've been with Basticos Nomos now for 2 months, going through their entire law of agency and law of contract. And then there's a gentleman by the name of Derek Gonzalez, who with a guy by the name of Smoking Baby put on a marathon on this last weekend. It started at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I stayed on till 12:45 in the morning, and I woke up the next day, and I called my friend in Florida to see if he had the recording. He said the call's still going on, so I got on from 11 o'clock till 5:45, and that's when the call ended. So yeah, you talk about a marathon.
Oh my God!
So,
See,
anyway, I'm going to go ahead and yield and let you can.
Yeah, Derek and I have
Thank you
been
for
on
allowing me to speak.
Yeah, anytime. I appreciate all you got for input, and I would really appreciate you coming back with more. I don't find too many people like yourself that will join the panel and help me discern whether I'm misinterpreting this stuff or not. So I really appreciate it. And Derek did a 1.5 long Zoom, and I was a big part of that, along with Smoking Baby and Pastor the Way and others.
I just want to
now,
say something.
Did you know Patrick Devine? Did you know Patrick Devine, Keith?
I did. I even met up with him a couple times. He used to live just south of me, about 2 hours down by Des Moines. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
he was.
Sorry,
he-
Stephen. I didn't mean to step on you.
No, you could. No, I was just going to say, and I appreciate you, the kind words, by all means. Do know that what I do is I jump on the ground. I'll take one or two things and I'll just go. Because I did do a ton of research when I first started this stuff. And I was trying to get it right. But what I found is when you hit them in the throat, where they don't want you to get in, and the biggest thing was when they opened that probate case. I filed that probate case 6 times. Once in civil, and then 5 times in probate. The probate, the first 2 didn't work because I didn't have my dad's birth certificate. Once I got my dad's birth certificate, boom, it worked. And then from that point on, I had to realize that they were administering it right out the gate. I helped a friend of mine try to do his mom's, and they shut everything down. Everything we did, they just shut it down. The state didn't give a shit how wrong they were, because what it was is they didn't have a proper deed of trust recorded. They didn't have most of the stuff they need. A law firm was managing her mortgage, not a mortgage company. So they were fraud all across the board.
Yep.
And when we pulled all the stuff from the records, we filed it in the petitions like, yo, there's no recorded deed of trust, so this property needs to go to her sons free and clear, is what was in the petition.
Yeah.
And the crazy part was is they when I say they ran and they did this dude so wrong in so many ways. They put him in jail for 90 days, and then they tricked him into another 90 days where he wound up going to Texas for a crime that wasn't even, it was possession. So anyway, I just say all this because the probate challenge is extremely, be ready, because when you piss them off, you better not have nothing wrong in your history, because anything that you've ever done, they're going to come after.
Well, there's
well, that's why
there's a
there's a
publication called Guarding Against the there's a excuse me real quick. There's a publication called Guarding Against the Destruction of the Trust by Merger. It's a very interesting document to read. I'm sorry, Keith, go ahead. I'm going to mute now. Thank you.
Guarding Against the Construction of Trust in a Merger.
Guarding Against the Destruction of Trust by Merger.
Oh, let me throw this one.
Guarding Against the Destruction of Trust by Merger.
When you do your probate filing, now I followed, when I first did it, I did it based on Anna Von Rice and what she did. Now, what she did, and a lot of people don't like her. You don't have to like anybody, but if they're right, they're right. So take what's right and move with it. She was right, but everything she talked about was per Alaska. I found that out the very hard way. Your state's different, period. So get ready. Your state is going to be different. The biggest thing I found, and the reason I filed so many times, because it's $190 every time you file a probate in Missouri. You don't have to pay that fee. What you have to do is put in your petition, and however you choose to do your petition is up to you. I mean, there's multiple ways to write it. I'm just telling you, I did Anna Von Rice's, and it worked. I had to modify it based on Missouri, but it worked. The fundamentals worked. But what I do is I put in a line, and I did it in my probate case, and I did it in my friend Danny's probate case. I said, make all fees payable from the named estate. That's it. And every time I've done it, they've accepted the petition, and I never paid a dime. So trust me, that's what scares most people off from the beginning. But when you file that petition, even if it's wrong, because I was wrong the first 3 times, when you file that petition, they'll accept the petition and they won't charge you. If you do get charged, go back and rewrite it based on whatever your state's and county's local rules are. because that's what I had to do with Anna's, because hers was right for Alaska, but it was not right for Missouri. So I just want to throw that caveat in there. But Keith, go back to where you were saying.
Oh, you're muted, Keith.
I was going to go back to this bail stuff where it talks about the special bail and straw bail. And it says here special bail. Let's do common bail first. Fictitious sureties formally entered in the proper office of the court. Okay. Special bail is responsible sureties who undertake as bail above. Persons who undertake jointly and severally in behalf of a defendant arrested on mesne process in a civil action. That if he be condemned in the action, he shall pay the costs and condemnation. That is, the amount which may be recovered against him, or render himself prisoner, or that they will pay it for him, one or the other. This is what that indemnification is. You can go ahead and judge me, but if your judgment is false, guess what? You get to pay everything for me. So do it at the greatest expense, including mine. Straw bail, nominal or worthless bail. That's the birth certificate. It's worthless. It's got the seal of full faith and credit. And if you can put the words to it, if you can coin your words, you can hand it over to the right people and they'll see that value. Irresponsible persons or men of no property who make a practice of going bail for anyone who will pay them a fee therefor, and who originally, as a mark of their purpose, wore straw in their shoes. I've got it right here. I'm going to give it to the United States. I'm willing to go to jail for the state. Bring it. If it's set up right, they won't dare. They're going to fold because it's a big gamble for them. Especially if they see a marker on it that says private placement, already securitized. And now my thing doesn't want to work anymore. Yeah, I'm going to have to get a new Black's Law 4th year online. But anyway, that's about the end of what I'm presenting anyway. So, again, it's a matter of don't believe me, folks. Don't believe the neighbor. Don't believe the government. For crying out loud, don't believe your mother. Do your research so you know. Let me see here. I want to pull up that thing that you mentioned, guarding the trust.
It's guarding against the destruction of trust by merger. I was looking up letters of administration for Missouri, but I can't seem to see anything about letters of administration like it's letters DE 140 or 144, 150 in California. So I was trying to find the equivalent of the yeah, that's it right there. Yeah, that's a very interesting read, and their goal is to continue to hypothecate as long as they can. Delay, deny, delay, delay, deny.
Here's where I'll tell you about a very important aspect of this recovery and stuff of these trusts, and that is the revocable and irrevocable trust situation. So what we have is mom and dad were indoctrinated in this system, and there's a probated estate in trust. They didn't come forth with the bail and bailment to indemnify everything and recuperate that trust and guard against the trust destruction by merging it with a private trust of their own, making it a revocable trust.
Yeah.
So now we're in the same situation. There's an irrevocable trust that can only be changed by the beneficiary. So we have to change
now
the
when you go to
irrevocable
section
trust. We have to change the irrevocable trust by creating our new revocable trust and merging it with the private that private trust. Does that make sense?
Correct. When you go,
Okay.
yeah, when you go back to, and see, here's another thing too, is you have to have a place to park the assets of the estate, like a brokerage house or a holding company or something like that, because the last thing you want to do is bring anything more than $250,000 in the local bank, because you do not want to exceed that FDIC. So when you're talking about large estates, and these estates could be 300 million to 600 million or whatever, we don't know, because there's never been a full accounting on the assets held in abeyance and held in trust. So one of the things is that under 15412 of that California probate code, if you could pull that up, and I'll go over that real quickly. But yeah, I was looking for letters of administration for Missouri, and I don't see anything like that. The DE,
because you can make it. This is the thing, is that they don't let you know that you are the creator, and you can create your structure how you want to. And that's why I know they're so flippant with me in Missouri, because I've created all this shit. When I say, okay, so I would say any white person can follow Anna von Rice's stuff to the T. I found the stuff for indigenous people only because I found my dad's birth certificate. Everybody's got to have their claim their way, and wherever you come from. So if you're Indian, you still got a claim. Now, if you go under an existing tribe, you fall under that existing tribe's structure. So whatever deal they got with the United States, you're going to fall under that structure. But if you wish, you can still choose to self-govern. Say, yeah, I'm part of the Cherokee, but I don't want to do what the Cherokee do. So you have to set up your own administration. So what I've done,
correct,
is I've turned myself off as the settler, because I said there's no way I could have been the settler for a contract on May 31st, 1974, because I just got here. I didn't know language. Wasn't able to walk, talk, or nothing. So I couldn't contract. So there's no way I was the settler. So that put the settler to be my mom and dad. So that automatically allows me to be the administrator, but I'm not the administrator directly. I'm the administrator through an unincorporated association, which is what it says. It's unincorporated. Therefore, they have no jurisdiction over it. You could do it through a 508 church. I think you can do it through an LLC. I wouldn't recommend it, but certainly a private trust.
I would. The LLC is the new way to start as a foundation. You do an LLC singularly.
Well, the only reason I'm saying
disregarded entity.
Because if you do as a private trust or unincorporated association, none of the transactions you do are you have no obligation for recording anything until you move it into the public. So under a private trust or under an unincorporated association, you could do whatever you want as long as that money stays private. But as soon as it comes to the public, it has to be recorded. And that's the thing with an LLC, is there's got to be reporting. You don't necessarily have to record, but you have to report.
Yeah, and that's what the indemnification is for. You're going to indemnify them as well as your LLC, because your LLC is under their name.
Okay.
The numbering is what they're doing, is the routing. So always, it's always going to be there, the enumeration. So they're always going to have that number in their system as a main point of reference. You can't avoid that.
Agreed. So the hard part is that moving credits.
Right, and that's the securitization of the numbering process, the routing.
Yeah, when you're out of their system, all you can move is credit.
Right.
You can't move anything else. So when it actually becomes money,
correct,
that's when you're in the LLC incorporated stuff. So that's the only thing. So an LLC is a great hybrid, because it can move securities, it can move money, it can move credits, it can move those things. But just to keep yourself private, you could just get something that's private and leave it private. So that way you don't have to say, if I got 70 billion over here, that's none of your fucking business.
Right, and that's what the offshore accounts
May
are
I?
all about. Hey, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so basically what we want to do in the probate process is we want to close that estate and transfer the credits over to an heir or the beneficiary. And so what are we doing? Basically, we're liquidating the assets of the trust. Okay?
Yep.
So now, in the eyes of the IRS, and I know this for a fact, IRS will issue an EIN number for a liquidation trust. So when you go into a bankruptcy court and you've got a liquidation trust with an EIN number from the IRS, Department of the Treasury, they have a tendency to say, oh my God, excuse me, I had to hit that fly again. You sucky blur. They have a tendency to stand up and take heed on what you're trying to do, which is, of course, close the trust, settle all the taxes, settle all the outstanding obligations and liabilities, and transfer the credits into a liquidation trust, which then you have a right of direction on to go ahead and transfer those credits into a holding company. And like you said, you don't want to touch anything. You don't want to put anything more than $250,000, or I wouldn't even put more than $80,000 in a local bank branch. But that you have a holding company or a investment firm like Schwab or Fidelity. You set up a liquidation holding account, and by the proper administration of the trust, directing the transfer agent to go ahead, and once the assets have been identified, all the obligations have been paid, to transfer the remainder of the assets in the form of credits over to that liquidation trust, through the liquidation trust EIN number, which you've got your blanket letter of representation. It's called a BLOR, and when that happens, things should go pretty easily. So, now, not speaking derogatory about Audubon rights, but I've gone through that material for, I don't know, maybe 4.5 months from end to end. And I couldn't see how really anybody would really want to embark down that trail. I don't know her. I worked with a gentleman by the name of Robert Blair Young who worked with her. And unfortunately, he passed away on June 6th of 2019. I've tried to talk to Paul Starmer at least 10 times. He's never returned one of my calls or anything. So I like the pastor says, well, you know, where's the documentation of it? Where's the documentation of it? Does it work? Does it work? Well, I know for firsthand evidence based upon the publication of letters of administration and the fact that when you go into probate and you've got an EIN number, because when you go into bankruptcy court under Chapter 11, they want you to set up a bankruptcy, a debtor in possession estate for the bankruptcy. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, that bankruptcy and this debtor in possession accounts have to be open with the bank. So when you leave there, excuse me, when you leave that bankruptcy in 2 or 3 years, whatever, the one thing that you'll still have in your possession will be, or you'll have a right to use, is that Social Security number. Okay. Now, failure to disclose material facts when the courts have somewhat of a fiduciary obligation, especially when you're going to them to go ahead and green stamp your probate letters based upon the wishes that you classified either as a special administrator or the general administrator, which is right here. You can see that number 2. And you have an EIN number for a liquidation trust, there really can't be much pushback from these people. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share.
That's California, right? Okay. Yeah. So one thing I don't do, I don't fill out any state form. Everything I fill out, if it's a state form, I'll just copy it and make it my own and put it on my letterhead. The only things I fill out are IRS forms because that's their boss. And the IRS is the two-headed monster.
That's correct.
And
now on the styles, Chicago style.
Well, I'm saying that the IRS can eat you or can eat your enemy. It's up to you. It's how you direct the IRS, because they're literally standing there as a neutral arbiter who is ready to devour whatever you put in front of it. So you go into
And
the
that's
IRS.
where the law. That's where the law of agency comes into play.
Correct. But the
It's
most
where the law.
powerful form I found is that Form 56, because I've retitled that Form 56 like 3 times. And every time I retitle it, I get another reaction from the state, because the state's not happy, because I've taken all their administrative power from them, which gave me control of the probate case. So they hate that, because the judge, I literally had a scenario where I was writing orders and the judge was writing judgments, and I was vacating the judge's judgments. There's about 24 judgments in my probate case, me and the judge going back and forth over him having the authority to write the judgment, and I kept vacating his judgments. And once I did the Form 56, removing him as administrator or appointing myself as administrator, my unincorporated association is who I appointed as the administrator. Once I did that, the judge stopped because he had no more authority.
And on this here, on petition by a trustee or beneficiary, the court for good cause shown may divide a trust into 2 or more separate trusts if the court determines that dividing the trust will not defeat or substantially impair the accomplishment of the trust purposes or the interests of the beneficiaries. And what this makes me think of is that concept of providing a bond for the municipal mayor, the county commission, the state secretary of state governor, and the federal government at the presidential level. So split it into 4 separate trusts, 1 for the state, 1 for the county, 1 for the municipality. And they all, of course, come from the initial one from the United States.
But that allows them
Does
to
the
settle
state of Missouri or the courts of Missouri?
Go ahead.
May I?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you got a lag in your politeness.
Does the Missouri courts recognize and follow the Uniform Probate Code?
Yes.
Do you know?
Yes.
Okay. So under the Chicago Styles Manual, nobody can force you to use their documents if the documents that you tender or that you create are nearly exact. They cannot tell you that you can't use them. That is abusive process, and that is that's putting undue hardship. So
this is what I'm trying to say is that I tell you, when you hit them in the nuts, they don't like it, and they will fight you back every way they can.
And that's what I hope I'm getting across here when I'm talking about this bail. It's already known to be a express trust. It's already expressed. That is the expression of the trust, the bond.
Well, the indemnity is the big
right. All you have to do is indemnify it, and that's your own power of redemption. That's your own testation.
So that stops them from impeding on your trust, because you've already got a mechanism for if there's a claim against you in any way, shape, or form. Don't go to my trust. I've got indemnification right over here. So
in the probated estate.
Before you start trying to arrest me, detain me, or anything like that, unless you got an injured party, you got to do what's leave me the fuck alone has to be done. That's what you got to do. So that's the main thing that I'm seeing with this, and then showing the bail, and that's another trust for which you're going to tell me I got a post bail. No, I don't. I'm already indemnified, and I got a bail trust. So again, you better have the dead body sitting right here if you're taking me anywhere. That's what I'm interpreting from what you got here, which is the main thing. So, when I tell you I got all the EINs, like stomach, I got settlement trust, I got private trust, I got active trust, living trust. I got them.
Do you have a liquidation trust? Do you have a liquidation trust?
It doesn't say liquidation, no, but I've got several trusts that are just I got like 12 EIN numbers, and
Oh, okay.
of the 12, 8 or 9 of them are trusts. The one's an LLC, the unincorporated association. But the whole point is again, they keep trying to change the game, and this is where I discovered the whole military jurisdiction, and they can change the game under the military jurisdiction. They take you into provost when you beat them, and you got them. They're up against the ropes, and they're about to pass out, but the ropes are holding them up. They're going to take you provost jurisdiction, and that literally is boots on the ground, martial law, or in eminent domain. And when they take you there, you can say whatever you want to say. You can say it however you want to say it. It doesn't matter. This is right after they conquer your territory, that this is the law that comes in. So they're not listening to anything you got to say. They're just going to do what they want to do. And they got 90 days if you're a suspect of anything. They got 10 days if you're, or 14 days if there's a wrongful, if there's an injury and they need a settlement. They keep you up to 14 days, but in that time, they got to tell you what you did. And I only know this because I did 10 days.
It's called the nature and the cause of the accusation. Yeah, the nature and the cause of it. Yeah, the nature of the accusation. Yep. Which they're doing Donald Trump. They're not.
So here's another point I want to make here is under this, this is that other one you gave me, the EIN thing through the IRS. And it says an estate is a legal entity created as a result of a person's death. So it goes back to that the umbilical cord and stuff we were talking about earlier. Yep. If that's the person that they're talking about and it was registered as dead, the decedent, another part of what was discharged from mother that was pulsing at birth. And it says the decedent's estate is a separate legal entity for federal tax purposes.
Correct, but nobody's ever probated the estate of the infant decedent, the born alive, being the product of conception after complete expulsion or extraction of the mother, which breathes or shows any other evidence of life, such as the beating of the heart, the pulsation of the umbilical cord, or the voluntary movement of muscles, whether or not the umbilical cord has been cut or placenta is still attached. Each product of such birth is considered live, born, and fully recognized as a human creature. Okay.
Yep. And
human,
that's the person.
Human person. So now we have the infant decedent, we have the placenta, we have the umbilical cord, we have the person, we have the child, we have the baby, we have a stock option, we have a fetus, and we have a nativity. So, like, again, is it a floor wax or an ice cream topping, referencing the Saturday Night Live skit? Which one is it, right? So this all follows under 13 Unum Sanctum from 1308 by Pope Boniface VIII, when he talked about no man shall judge the words of the pontiff, and that everybody is subject to the pontiff's words, and we're all creatures underneath the everything else is considered human creatures. Well, when you look at the classification that the Jews put on the Goyim, the Goyim, basically stating, if you want to read something really interesting, go read the Jewish Revolutionary Spirit by E. Michael Jones, or go read Synagogue of Satan, or read or F. Tupper Saucy's book about the rulers of evil, which is a great book. But the fact of the matter is they've hijacked this process. And when you look back and you see the proliferation of who is primarily occupying these offices as attorneys in this country, 93% of them are of Jewish descent. Okay, so we know what they're trying to do. They've overplayed their card, not once, not twice, not 3 times, and now this time now when they're liquidating the stock of the Palestinian people. That's what they are. They're considered stock. They're considered less as human, and they're committing genocide. on that land in Palestine, which when you go back to the Balfour Declaration in 1917, you realize that the British, in cahoots with Baron Rothschild, basically evicted these people from their lands. So this has been going on for more than 75 years. And when we wake up and find out who really our enemy is, we can understand what's going on, and we can arm ourselves with the armor of God. Romans 13:11. The night is far gone, and the day is at hand. Let us cast off the works of darkness. Let us not put on. Let us not walk in envy and drunkenness, or lust and belligerent. But let's put on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no provisions to fulfill the lust for flesh. So we're coming down here to some very interesting times. So when people understand how this is a multi-pronged attack on everything, all of our resources, all of our labor, from the cradle to the grave. And it's funny because, you know, I've been doing private jurisdictionary courses with people who have bought in the actual course, and it's somewhat disheartening, but I keep doing them. I don't care if there's only one person that shows up. I continue to do the course, and I'm trying to set examples. When I give my word is my bond. If I'm going to do the class for 3 hours on Mondays and Wednesday nights, the class is going to take place on Mondays and Wednesday nights, come hell or high water. So it's up to the people's own determination on how they want to perceive themselves to be, and come out of her and stand as being a man in the competence of the premise. Competent in the premise of understanding and knowing what is right and wrong. So anyway, thank you so much for inviting me, and I really appreciate it. Stephen Martin, thank you. You're an inspiration to me. If I can be of any help to you whatsoever, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I put my email address here, somaswadai@yahoo.com. So
Yeah,
with that, I've got a call. Okay, I've got a Zoom call coming up in 1 minute, so I have to excuse myself. I thank you so much for the invite. I wish you all a blessed night. Travel safe. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Yes, come again anytime, brother.
Much love.
Absolutely, absolutely. Can't wait to have him back. He seems to be full of it, full of all kinds of information that'll help us, because we're talking about the same thing, and he seems to exuberate the same concept. So let's continue on here. It says an estate consists of real and or personal property of the deceased person. The estate pays any debts owed by the decedent, and then distributes the balance of the estate's assets to the beneficiaries of the estate. And this is what he was talking about earlier. It's important to understand the definition heir. The estate exists until the final distribution of the assets is made to the heirs and other beneficiaries.
I think one thing to point out, and this is stuff I learned early on, but I don't know how many people know. To my understanding and what I had learned was that when you're born, the afterbirth, the umbilical it's you. It's got your DNA. It's got everything that's in you, and it can live for up to an hour after you've been delivered. So this is the sick base, in my opinion, because it doesn't have your consciousness, it doesn't have your soul, but it is the only significant part of you, and this is what they capture immediately after you're born. And I've spoken with several people that they tried to keep their placenta, and they had to fight the hospital tooth and nail to get it.
Yeah, it's a service contract under biohazard. That's the debt that's owed to the United States for taking care of a biohazard.
Yeah.
Dangerous material.
Well, they construct all of this shit. They construct all of this shit off of your afterbirth.
Yeah.
They're saying it was you, which technically it was. But anyway, I just want to point that out.
Yep. And the next one, it says a fiduciary, and then we're done with this session. It says a fiduciary is any person acting in a fiduciary capacity for any other person. A fiduciary for a decedent's estate can be an executor, administrator, personal representative, or person in possession of property of a decedent's estate. Again, that birth certificate is property of a decedent's estate. It's evidence of that. And it's got a full faith and credit seal on it. The primary duties of the fiduciary are to collect all the decedent's assets, pay the creditors, and distribute the remaining assets to the heirs or other beneficiaries. This is the giving of a directive for full acquittance and discharge so that all parties are made whole and any remainders are returned back to the heirs. I think it sounds pretty simple.
It is, but that's the art of war, is they create all of this distraction.
Well, and notice we didn't get to read it, but in Black's Law 4th, it says bail in one of those sections under bail. It says a declaration of war. And remember, we talked about Article 39 in the Libre Code about armistice. See, the direct declaration of war has been made, and we just need to give the officers notice of the armistice. That's what the bail is. It's a war rant.
We as the people have to understand.
Yep.
It's not we're physically fighting. It is a spiritual, verbal battle. And when I say verbal, words, art of war of words. And all they do is keep spinning. Because all the concepts, for what it's worth, commerce is not complicated. They make it complicated. Because they flip the rules and they flip who they're talking about. If I'm positive and you're negative, and every time you flip us, and if you flip us 400 times before speaking the next word, I don't know who I am. And that's what their whole focus is to get you from understanding who you are and getting you to be in another role. So you hear all the time about going in and out of court about they're the trustee, you're the trustee, and they go back and forth. That's only to create confusion.
Yep.
So but that's what you're doing more than anything else, is you're hashing it down to the simplicity of the actual rule.
Yep. And Kevin K asked, what is usufruct? And that's the simplicity of what we're talking about, is that somebody else is taking the enjoyment of possession and use of another person's property short of destruction. That's it. And it's the state that's using our property, known as personal property, the bail, for their benefit through probated estates and collecting all the fines, fees, and penalties that they're assessing against us instead of teaching us how to use that bail. And as it goes to, I am non-combatant, non-adversarial, non-belligerent, that would be hors de combat. Force majeure, hors de combat. I'm not in your war because I am subject to a greater force, the force of our Father which art in heaven.
That is the basis of the non-enemy combatant inside of Title 50. And the sent to the group that we talked with on Saturday. But that's like the first line, that you're none of those. And you have to make that statement too, preferably on your public record, that you're a non-enemy combatant with all the different conditions of it. But this has been a long journey for me. I'm not done yet. I'm really close to done, I hope. But I just say to everyone, as confusing as a lot of this shit may seem, it's every time you see that something that is really muddy in the water, it's just there to confuse you. It is not the common law, common jargon is not super complicated. It's all the bullshit they stuffed in between. But when you actually clean up, and that's what Keith does a great job of clearing that shit out and saying, this is what we need to focus on. And I know it's confusing because they put so many parables into every single action. Like they can't just say, oh, take this to this office. They can't say that. They got to say, you have to be qualified to have this person to do that. And they just do all that shit to confuse the fuck out of you. But when you just relax and just try to absorb it, grab what you can, don't try to suck in too much. And whatever you grab onto, just hold onto it tight and just don't let the truth go, because the truth shall set you free.
Absolute. All right, with that we're done. We're on our way out. What do you guys got? Any comments, concerns, complaints, any extras?
Well, brother, this is what I would like to say. Good show again tonight. I know the Most High is walking with us. I'm spiritually walking with the Most High, but what I would have to say is that when we have to be very observant and watchful of our own behavior and things that we do, because they're always trying to get us in a conflicting situation, because then they can say they have documentary evidence. If you can observe yourself, you can correct that part of the situation, because we have to walk in love, totally unconditional love, because it's the agape unconditional love that we have received from the Most High God. And so again, my pleasure, everything to you brothers and myself, and I yield with much love and peace.
Absolutely. Thank you very much again for your support, sister. Absolute.
And I have to, I'll take the next one. I have to agree with you. I believe it was a great show, and it was nice seeing the other gentleman there and Steve. You guys bringing a lot to the table here. There's a lot to learn in this world and all the corruption that's been done to us. And I think that's why I've always said that spiritual foundation was first and foremost with me, because you're exactly right. These guys want to get you in dishonor and where you can't even handle your own affairs and your presentment. So, and I think when a man does get that stability in that foundation, that's where that power comes and that fear starts to set in on their end.
Yep.
So I look forward to what the future holds, and much love to everybody, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Thank you too. I appreciate the support, brother. Awesome. How about you, Mitch? What do you think?
Yeah, I was wondering, you don't have the option to share with my audience. Do you mind if I restream this on my channel?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, cool. Thank you, man.
I'll have to go through my settings and figure out what that is, so that people can share. That
Yeah,
might be a
yeah, because
way to help up the numbers, huh?
it would, because then I could just click a button, and if I'm up on panel, it'll stream it to my channel, and the audience will kind of you'll get all the comments in your StreamYard section. But yeah, it'll definitely benefit me. But yeah, other than that, I have nothing really to add, other than, yeah, thanks for, you've been really on point, man. Your effective communication is it's really paving the path. You'll never really get the appreciation you deserve in this lifetime. But
All
thanks.
glory goes to him. You know me, brother. And you know
Yeah.
I've been talking about trust and contract law for a long time, and that's where it's at. And that's the basic comprehension that most any contract is an expression of a trust. Figure out how to see the trust and what the contract is, so you can express you're the third party benefactor.
Yeah.
They
Right on.
are dependent on you in order to do those service contracts. That's their public service. Once you learn this system and rise above it, then your duty in your public service is education. That's it. That's the benefit that we're losing out on. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to throw this other piece on here. This all comes together. The word is not separated from the spirit, from the body, from the mind. All of it's together. And we're going into the quantum universe, and this is how things, we're living in a linear. So everything we see, touch, taste, and feel, that's what they've conditioned us to just focus on. But the abstract is our soul, and our soul connects to the universe in so many ways. But it's just getting in tune. So I will say this to everybody on here. Keith is an extremely special person. And I know I'm a special person because his insight and his ability to regurgitate this shit is amazing, which is why we're tight. So, but I know everybody that's going to be in leadership in this new world, you are going to go through some shit. And I don't mean no little shit. You're going to be like, how the hell is all this stuff happening? Because God's going to challenge you, because you have to be salt of the earth. You have to be able to take on these spiritual battles that come from all these different angles. I promise you, the last 3 months, I have been under absolute blitzkrieg attack. And I'm standing here and I'm still strong. All it wants to do is break you down to your weakness. And you'll find it. You're going to get broke down. That's going to happen. It's how quick you get back up. That's the challenge in life. It's not that you get down, it's how quick you get back up. So as frustrating as a lot of this information may be, as hard as it is to learn sometimes, once you break through some of the barriers, it gets easier and easier and easier. And if you're not called to do it, do what you're called to do. Some people try to do other shit. I can't do what Keith does. I've tried. I'm not that guy. But
what's your other channel, Mitch?
American Resolution it's what that. Thanks, man. Oh, you got to make sure it'll automatically put in American Revolution. Go back to the top it should be able to give you an option to select American Revolution, but it'll automatically correct you to Resolute. All right.
I got American Resolution.
For some reason, it automatically pulls up the results, and it should give you the option to. It'll automatically pull up the results for Revolution, but it should give you the option to click Resolution. Oh, right at the top. I can't read it, but I think I see where you got to click. Right above that first picture. Yeah.
Got it.
And it used to pop right up. Oh, there it is.
So
all right.
My last point on it was, if you're spreading this message, be ready for what comes with it, because a responsibility comes with it, and your challenges are shortly behind. So be ready for whatever's coming, and don't be surprised, because this is not for the meek. This is for those who are called. And if you are not called and you're jumping in trying to do something you're not supposed to do, you'll find out real quick.
I'll tell you once again, it says in the scripture that the meek shall inherit the earth, but we've been promised heaven. So you pick your choice. You want to be meek and inherit the earth, or you want to stand strong and speak boldly as you ought to, rightly dividing the word of truth so you can ascend above all the fucking lines. That's your place, heaven. That's what you were promised. Think about those scriptures. And if I'm interpreting them wrong, please let me know. But that's my interpretation. And that's why they have a headstone on a ledger stone. That flat stone that they put the headstone on, that's a ledger stone.
God, it makes me sick. Godspeed to everybody. Thank you for your time. I appreciate everybody's input.
And as you say that, Brother Keith, about the ledger stone, when you think about the knowledge, it's the no ledge that we have. Like he said, the stone is not on the ledge.
Yep. There's no ledge when you're walking with God. He's not going to let you fall.
Amen to that.
As long as you follow me, you shall be blameless.
Yep.
Yeah. Can't thank you all enough. Good night, guys.
You guys, it was very uplifting. Appreciate it.
Much love,
End of time teacher. We were talking about the bail as an express trust. If you go back and watch the video, it'll show you, run through all the different definitions that they say, and it all concurs that we are the ones to do what we need to do in regards to that trust. And that's merely accepting the gift that they gave us, doubling it up, and creating the indemnification that's supposed to be under full faith and credit. And the process and the mechanisms are there. We just have to learn how to use them. So with that, you guys know me. I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. And that's to say, I don't care if you hate me or don't respect me. That's on you. So may God bless you and have a good night. Bye now.